The situation between Israel and Palestine has worsened so much that it looks like a war. In today's video, we will try to understand the historical background of such tension by analyzing the evolution of Israel. The story starts with the land of Jerusalem. Here, Judaism was originated, which is one of the oldest religions in the world. However, at that time, the world was dominated by Roman Empire and there was a conflict between Romans and Jews. Romans attacked the region of Judaism in 72 AD. This led to the exodus of Jewish people from their homeland. Most of them went to Europe. However, the challenges didn't end there. They continued to face the challenge of anti Semitism. Anti Semitism is the belief or behavior hostile toward Jews just because they are Jewish. One of the prime examples of anti Semitism could be observed by looking into the story of Theodor Herzl. Theodor Herzl is considered to be the father of the Israeli state. He was a government officer in Vienna, which was under the Austro-Hungarian Empire. He left the Austro-Hungarian region after he faced anti-Semitism there. He came to France and started to work as a journalist. He was given a task to cover a report on the 1890 event when France was defeated by the Russian Empire. Here, he saw another example of anti-Semitism when France government put the entire blame for the defeat on another Jewish person named Alfred Dreyfus. After this event, Theodor Herzl realized that Jews will be continuously discriminated against like this until and unless they have their own homeland. He wanted a safe home or heaven for Jewish people, and according to him, it was their original land, Jerusalem. To achieve this aim, he founded World Zionist Congress in 1897. During the time of World War I, Palestine was under the control of the Ottoman Empire. In 1917, Britain promised to give them a part of Palestine as their future homeland after defeating the Ottoman Empire in World War I. This was the major breakthrough because the first time a world power paid attention to the demand of Jewish people. On receiving British assurance, Zionists started a campaign with a clear objective to settle all Jews in Palestine. This was to ensure that a significant proportion of Jews would be ready to go to Jerusalem when the British government would fulfill its promise. This immigration of Jews in the promised land of Jerusalem was called Aliyah. However, British government failed to fulfill its promise. During Second World War, the biggest genocide in the history of mankind, led to the death of around 60 lakh Jews. This Holocaust made the world sympathize with Jewish people, and it culminated into the UN resolution suggesting a partition plan for Palestine, according to which there would be an independent Arab and Jewish states and the special international regime for the city of Jerusalem. The Muslims rejected the plan, but Jews accepted it. In 1948, executive head of the World Zionist Organization, David Ben-Gurion, proclaimed the Israeli Declaration of Independence and established Israel as a nation. Enraged by this event, Arab countries of Egypt, Jordan, Iraq, and Syria attacked newly formed Israel and thereby starting the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. When the war ended, Israel has retained its independence and increased its land area by almost 50% compared to the 1947 UN partition plan. This credit goes to the vision of David Ben-Gurion, who anticipated this kind of attack and planned in advance. However, Arab countries, especially Egypt, was in no mood to accept the defeat. They wanted to pressurize the world powers for removing the existence of Israel from their neighborhood. Egyptian leader Jamal Abdel Nasser thought that Suez Canal is very important for Western world for their oil imports. Therefore, he nationalized Suez Canal. This led to another war between France, Britain, Israel on one side and Egypt on other side. Due to international pressure, Israel had to leave the area of Sinai Peninsula, saw this as a victory of Egypt for the right cause, and in 1968, along with Syria, Jordan, and Lebanon, it attacked Israel again. This six-day war was ended as the biggest triumph for Israel. Israel expanded its territory by capturing Gaza from Egypt, West Bank from Jordan, and Golan Heights from Syria. After 5 years of 6 days war, when Israel was celebrating Yom Kippur festival, there was third attack from Egyptian side. This led to October War 1973 or Yom Kippur War, in which Israel defeated Egypt again. After three successive defeats in 1978, new leader of Egypt, Anwar Sadat, tried to end the enmity by signing Camp David Accords. Observing the defeat of Arab nations, Palestinians realized that they could never depend on Arab countries to reclaim their land. They already formed the Palestine Liberal Organization in 1969 under Yasser Arafat. Initially, they adopted violent methods, and in response, Israel declared it as terrorist organization. After 1980, Yasser Arafat adopted the peaceful way to establish Palestine. The first important step in this direction was made in 1993 in form of Oslo Accord, which was signed between Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin and Palestinian Liberal Organization's leader Yasser Arafat. However, with the assassination of Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, who signed Oslo Accord, the spirit of peaceful resolution was also lost from Israel politics. From Palestinians' side, the aim was to get at least some of the land. Therefore, from 1993 to 2000, many attempts were made to realize two-nation theory, in which states of Israel and Palestine could coexist simultaneously and peacefully. In the year of 2000, US, Israel, and PLO declared Oslo Accord as a failure. This resulted in the Intifada, which was a protest movement from Palestinians against Israel. The subsequent casualties on Palestinians attracted the public sympathy. This created the ground for emergence of a militant group, Hamas. Hamas also tried the method of violence and terrorism for claiming the land of Palestine. Meanwhile, PLO in 2014, through its peaceful methods, succeeded to get Palestine the status of observing state in United Nations. This was the first time in the history of UN when a country without land, without border, and even a capital was handed over a status of state member in UN. However, as we can observe in these maps, these efforts are of little use. Israel kept on capturing more and more area, and at present, Palestine is left only with 21% of their original land. With this, we end this chapter. If you like the content, please subscribe our channel, and if you want to suggest some improvement, you are most welcome. Stay tuned.